Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne and Vince Perrotta. I am Lorianne Casdia. He's Vince Perrotta. Our goal at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you to fulfill a healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. Welcome to the show. I am a life and business transformational success coach. And Vince?
Hi there. How are you? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. So good to have you. I love our coaching corner, and I'm gonna kick it over to you today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's been interesting because as we get going and things start unfolding in any given time, you always start to come across different things. You begin to ask yourself, kind of, when do I need help? When do I need to start getting a little bit of support, some coaching? And so I kind of thought I would start off today by asking you, if I'm somebody out there, I'm a business professional and I'm trying to achieve, what do I look for? What are those characteristics or little hints that maybe I need some help and support?
Yeah. So in working with a lot of visionaries and entrepreneurs, I find that there are symptoms. I call myself a super ball because remember super balls, those little balls that actually I have them here, those little balls that you bounce around.
I love those.
And they go in all different directions. Yeah. So our intention is we're just visionaries, right? We have all these ideas. Really, we can do the dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but we really don't like to do that. We'd rather hand that off to somebody else. So that's why I call them super balls. But what I look for and what someone should look for is, do you have a lot of open and incomplete projects? You have all these great ideas. You have notebooks full of ideas, but never really accomplish them. It's like, one day I want to do blah, blah, blah. So you just can't seem to get out of the gate, or you have shiny object syndrome. That's a really big one. You're a procrastinator. Quick story. I discovered this in myself. I'm a high achiever, always, really high at work ethics. You know that about me. And I find myself, I have an office in my house as well as another location. And I found myself one day folding laundry. Now, Vince, laundry is not my fun game. That's not my happy place.
Not your favorite thing to do.
Not at all. So I was sitting there, and as I'm folding it, I'm like, what am I doing in the middle of the day folding laundry? And I was just like, oh my gosh, forget about procrastinating. I'm avoiding.
I was going to say, because that's the ultimate thing. If you had to pick laundry, I think you're pretty far afield of what you're trying to avoid.
Yeah. And what was it? Was it overwhelming? Was it I didn't know where to start? And that's where it was. It was a huge project. I didn't know where to start. So I was like, you know what? In my mind, I could justify that I'm being effective, I'm being productive because I'm taking care of something, one of my to-dos to get done. But as I'm sitting there, I also know that I'm sandbagging myself. I'm not, as we use in the terminology, I'm not really focusing on trying to figure out a way to handle this project, right? So that's a huge symptom for someone who's a super ball or someone who's a client that I take to fruition. So I help people take action. That's basically what I do. I help them get stuff done.
Well, and that's the thing, though. So when you're in that mode, though, and you're actually procrastinating, and listen, I suffer from that symptom. And one of the things is, I'll ask myself, I'm like, all right, why am I not doing this? That's kind of the first thing. You realize that you look up at the clock and you go, I haven't done anything in the last 35 minutes.
Yeah. But yet you were incredibly busy.
Oh, I was incredibly busy.
Yes.
And you know what? I've heard it referred to, and I really like this. It's the whirlwind. Like, you plan out your day so beautifully. You know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to focus on this or that. And then the whirlwind starts. The phone rings. You get calls from clients or customers. You get wrapped up in a side question that someone, I love I only need 5 minutes. I've never had a 5-minute conversation in my entire professional career. So I guess that's when people probably need to reach out, right? Because we're not going forward. We're standing still. We're stuck.
Yeah, it's almost a paralyzation. I used to do what I call the paper shuffle. I'm sure other people have heard of this. I'm sure you have, Vince, too. Is I was at my desk and I shuffled papers from the left side of my desk to the right side of my desk, and I putting it in a pile and then color coding it and putting tabs on and doing all these things. I'm not getting anything accomplished. One day I was just like, enough. This is crazy. I just put it in a big pile. I put it on the side of my desk and I took the top sheet And I just worked on that until I was done.
Right.
The same thing for the next. And so some of the tools that I offer out there, and actually it's a free PDF that I offer, is, cleaning up your messes and incompletes. And it really starts the process for you thinking of asking yourself, why am I doing this right now? Why am I not doing that? And, stop the procrastination.
I'm going to ask you a question because you just dropped something in there that's a little too subtle for me. So what is that PDF cheat sheet? Because I love cheat sheets. That's how you get a lot of really great information sometimes, and it kind of helps. I'm like, oh, finally, I needed to see this.
Yeah, it's a 3-step cheat sheet, as you refer to it. It's a really like a mini session that allows you to work on your messes and incompletes. First, we have to identify them. There are things that bother us. There are things that we call them irritations and things that we tolerate. A quick story. Every day I make my coffee, I go up my stairs, I go to my office, I start my work. So, and every day I would have my cup of coffee, walking up the stairs, and to the right, I looked into my living room and you could see this cord that is sticking out on the wall, and it was driving me nuts. And every day I'd go, oh, I got to do that. And I would come into my office and I would feel like a little agitation, and I would write it down or highlight it or circle it or, put a Post-it note up about doing that. And yet every day I didn't do it. One day I just stopped. I went, this is nuts. I put my coffee down on the stairs. I got the extension cord. I plugged it in. It took me less than a minute to take care of all of this. And then there was this like sense of achievement. I just like, I finished something. The visual I get when we have messes and incompletes is picture yourself sitting in the middle of a library with a whole lot of books open to different chapters surrounding you, piled high. That's what we do to ourselves with all these things, and they stay and they gnaw at you, at your head. So you're really not focused, because you're also in the back of your mind going, I got to take care of that. I got to take care of that. It's like remembering the shopping list your mom reminded you when you went to the store with dad: milk and eggs and bread, because you didn't write it down. Why didn't you just write it down? Right. So, but we would repeat it. Same thing with this. Our messes, our incompletes kind of gnaw at us. And it's cluttering. So we don't have room to open up to let other things in. We don't have room in our brain to really focus on what we want to focus on and stay in our wheelhouse. So P.S., that day when I came up to my office, I really felt accomplished. It was a silly little less than 1 minute thing. But I know that every day now, that when I walk up the stairs, I don't have to think about that. It's done.
There's also something else from that. You said you accomplished something small and it makes you feel great because you got something done, and now you feel motivated to do more. And it reminded me, I listened to the speech of one of the former commanders of the Navy SEALs, and he says about every day get up and make your bed. And even if you have the worst day, right, you come home to a nice bed, and there's something comforting and warm about that, which I totally agree.
Yeah.
But he said, more importantly, is you get this one thing accomplished. You accomplish this. It's a simple task. It's making a bed. And he said, it's not the most complicated, but you got something done. And the exact words you said, it's you feel motivated to move on and do something else. Because like, check the box. I got that done. I could do something else.
Yeah.
That was interesting that you said, because there is kind of that positive feeling, get those endorphins and kick in and going.
Yeah. And that actually energizes you. And you're like, okay,
Right.
What's next? And you're ready to take things on, and you're a little clearer. And as we go through on that particular cheat sheet, as you refer to it, I only ask you for 30 things that are open and incomplete, right? Normally it's 100 lists. When you work with me, it's a list of 100. And believe me, it's easy to do because it's all those little things, that little piece of coping that you have to repair, that little cord that you haven't taken care of. All these little things are little nudges, nagging at you all by yourself. You don't need anybody else's help. You got a lot of that doing it in your own head. What this does is it clears your head and opens you up to really work on those projects. So another symptom is a serial course taker. Oh my gosh, I have clients like that. They just take course after course after course after course. And that's a great thing. I love the learning experience. And if you look at my resume, I've studied under the best in my business, but that was for the intentions of putting these different tools in my tool belt. But they're taking this and they're taking serial courses and I don't mean cereal Captain Crunch, I mean course after course after course, but they're not applying it. So they're not taking it and applying it. You know what I mean?
I do. I do. You become the perennial learner, but never the executor. And it's all about execution, because it's very funny. I just watched a video because, like you, I'm always involved with what I do, coaching other folks. And there are 4 disciplines to, getting things accomplished and execution. And they talk about that exactly as you stated it. So you said this, you gave us the second symptom. You have 1 or 2 more that you could tell, because I think if we could see those characteristics in ourselves, and it makes it so much easier.
Yeah. You're a dreamer, but you never follow through, or you want to accomplish something, but you spend so much time beating yourself up over the fact that you haven't taken a step, or you don't know where to go, and you feel frustrated, that you beat yourself up. And when we do that, what that does is it causes doubt and fear. And then you're in a hamster wheel. You're like, I want to do it. Oh, but I'm, doubtful and fearful. So I'm not doing it. I want to do it, but I'm doubtful and fearful. So you're in that hamster wheel and you can't get out. So visionaries have a propensity to get in their own way. They have amazing ideas, notebooks full of ideas, but they don't complete the tasks. So through working with me, or, even using this first step PDF of cleaning up your messes and incompletes, you can start putting into practice some habits. Like you said, the habit of making your bed every day, the habit of finishing a task at a time, learning how to take a big project and make it into bite-sized pieces. It's like a pizza. We order a pizza. We don't eat the whole thing for the most part. Some people might, but most humans don't eat the whole pizza in one bite. We cut them in slices, and then we take a nibble at a time, right? We bite it at a time. We need to do the same thing with projects.
But that's really hard to do. I don't mean to interrupt you, but that is incredibly difficult, because I would tell you in most cases that the number one thing that I hear is, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
And you can just see that person as they say it. They're almost, a little bit like they take that, but I don't even know where to start. And I know, so how do you help with that, I guess? Because you really spend a lot of time with folks kind of looking at the project and breaking it down, right? So they can see, because if they can visualize it, then they can probably build the steps that they need, right?
Yeah, without a doubt, it's all about the strategy. So we look at big picture, which is the project completed, and we back it down into almost like a reverse funnel. And now what steps do we have to take at what point? And that's all part of the strategy and the planning that we walk through and do, like you do with your clients, I do with mine. We walk through all the steps and say, okay, what steps do we need in order to get there? I liken it to, you told a story about setting up your man cave. And how you had bought your TV before you put in the floor. So now you were shuffling this TV all around because we hadn't set a strategy to do that, where it's like, okay, I should have nothing in the room right now so that I can work on the room, set it up properly. And then we bring in that next step, which is getting the furniture, getting the workout equipment, getting the TVs, getting, whatever it is that you need to get. So I work very, very closely with people to figure out what is the strategy, what are the steps that you're going to take, and put them into biteable sizes. So on a daily basis, we always want to try to do things that are small enough to do, tasks that are small enough to do, but big enough to make a difference in attaining your goal, whatever that goal is. That could be a task, that could be a project. And tasks, just so there's a verbiage understanding, tasks are pieces of a big project.
So you raised something else in that I found interesting, because, and we did use my man cave, and I kind of voluntold that to you. But the thing that was interesting is I bought the TV because it was the fun part. Right. I bought 3 TVs because it was the fun part of the project. Right. Yeah. It's a long story, but it like doing the floor and clearing it out and laying the new floor and, rocking the walls. That was not fun. That was like, I had to do it, but all I wanted to think about was, but if I have the TVs, right? Because I can watch.
Yeah.
So that's where I think it's so invaluable to have you to come in and say, hey, I get it. The sexy part, the exciting part, That's great, but we're not ready for that yet, right? We got to do this.
And that causes the procrastination, right? So mentally it causes, so it's a mindset thing. It's like, okay, but if we reverse that and say the TV is the reward once we finish this part, what do you think? What do you think your attention would have been towards getting the rest of the room ready so that you could get the fun part?
Right. It would have been much better. It would have been much better.
It's like getting to the dessert, which, I would start with if anybody would let me, because that's the fun part. I want to get to the dessert.
Not how you, okay, we can do a different show.
Different conversation.
You have all these rules that I don't know.
I know. There's my mom's rule. I just keep following it for some godforsaken reason. But yeah, so the whole idea is to help people take action. And that's what a success coach does. We want an outcome. We want to achieve the outcome. We want to finally accomplish these big goals or these small goals. They could be small or large. And it could be, and I don't separate life and business because they overlap. I'm sure when you were at work, you were thinking about the fact that you had this great 3 TVs waiting to be put up and you weren't done with the room yet. And you knew a game was coming on this weekend and you felt that anxiety of, I got that thing to do, right?
Absolutely. It kind of gnaws at you. So I like the fact that, so I'm going to just step back for a second. So essentially you look at the project with folks, help them break it down, look at the strategy first, and then create those individual tasks to get there. And you implied this, but I'm going to tease it out a little bit. It sounds like you prioritize what those tasks are. So we're doing them in the right order to get the right result, because that can be frustrating. If you do it out of order, you're not going to get the right result. And then you're kind of in the same place. You're probably more frustrated. Right. And there's a third thing on your sheet, or did we already cover that in your PDF that you have for folks? Is there another?
So when we do that open and incomplete, we also take that and we bust it down into 4 categories. Mm-hmm. So those 4 categories, I call them the 4 Ds, right? You're going to do it, right? That goes on to your list. You're going to delegate it. Vince, can you do this for me? Right? That comes off of my list onto your list. We're going to delay it. You know what? I don't want to buy the TVs yet because I don't have the place for it. It's going to get in our way. So we're going to delay that. I'm going to put it on my 30-day, 90-day vision because I usually break things down into 30, 60, 90 days. And then we do another 30, 60, 90 days so that it's always bite size. It's not overwhelming. So we have a less propensity of procrastinating. And then the last one is dump it. Sometimes in our vision, it's like, this is a great idea. Right. And I'm sure we've all had those moments where we had this great idea and I was like, I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. But as we navigate through life took us in a different direction, took our business in a different direction, maybe our personal lives in a different direction. And that particular task or project no longer applies. So let's just say I had to get my tires changed on my car. But if I sold my car, I no longer need that task. So we dump it, right? Still on the list, but we got to dump it now. So what it does is it keeps it very open, and the less you have on the list as far as accomplishing things, and you get that list short, the more open you are to receiving new things in, and you'll feel this relief. It's actually a physical relief that you have only these tasks to do. I actually have a client who I did this process with, and I said, do your top 100. And he came back and he had 3 items. And by the time he came back to his coaching session, he had completed those 3 items. And I'm like, you didn't do the homework. And he goes, no, I just do it as I do the tasks. I do the tasks. If I have a project, I do the project. And I was like, that's really good. So you're open and ready to go. What do you want to do? So we rolled up our sleeves and we jumped into setting up a whole new business for him because he had space now, but he did it as he went, only because he caught up. Are you caught up with all your to-dos, Vince?
Yeah, I've written them down. There's a wonderful list. But
that doesn't mean you're caught up, right? So
yeah, caught up is not the term I would use.
There you go. So you may see fit to breaking it down into the 4 Ds. And sometimes we don't have one of those Ds. It's okay. There's nothing I want to dump, or there's nothing I can delegate, because we're control freaks, right? So we're going to try to get out of that habit as well. Can someone else do that? Can your assistant do it? Can Alex do it? Can somebody else, not me, do it for you? Right. So,
I like that rule. That's one of my favorite rules. Can someone else do it?
yeah.
But I think that, there's something else that comes up. But as we were talking, you mentioned about you've got all these great ideas, right? And we're kind of shiny object syndrome. So how do you help somebody when they've got all these ideas, right? Because I'm guessing that the fear that they have is that I don't want to lose these ideas. What do I do with them? If I focus on this, I've got these 9 other things over here, and I'm going to lose those 9 things. I can't lose them.
Yeah. No, and that's a really good question. And I'm going to ask you to put a pin in it because
Okay.
we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne and Vince Perrotta. And we're going to take a quick break and be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne and Vince Perrotta. I am Lorianne and
Vince Perrotta.
there you go. And if you'd like to be a guest or lift up your business, product, or not-for-profit, or if you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. So we were talking in the last half, and you had asked me a question. You want to ask that question again?
I do. So a lot of times I talk to people, especially business folks, they're not uncommonly very creative individuals, and they've got, 3, 4, 5 other ideas besides the one that they're currently working on. So I know that when I talk and I ask them about the idea, they're like, oh yeah, this is great, but I got, and they don't want to lose those other ideas. So how can you help them? Because I think that kind of is a natural distraction as well. It's like, I'm trying to focus on what you told me, but I'm also thinking about this that's going on over here.
Yeah, no, and that's very valid. And that's where working with the visionaries, this comes in. That's where these lists come in. So remember the 4 Ds, one of it was delay it.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I have an idea. You got to write it down. Have a place to write down those items. I use Microsoft Check, and it's a listing system. So future ideas is one of the folders I set up, and I just put it in there. So it's not on my list of 100 or list of 30. It's over here because I know I'm not going to get to it yet, but I have this nugget of like, I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, such a great idea.
Right.
But I know I don't have the bandwidth, or it's not time yet in my business to execute that particular thing. So I put it in that little folder. You could put it in a book. You could just make sure you remember where it is and put all of your ideas in that one place. So that delay it is where you're going to put that in. You're going to layer it in because sometimes in working with clients, they have things already that they want to do now. And the best thing to do is accomplish something else. Again, prioritizing what should come first.
Right.
We horse and carted a lot. And so, and CEOs, CBOs, the C-suite people, managers, even if you're running, of course, your own business, you need to learn how to look at that and work with someone who can help you prioritize. It's easier when you have help. And I always say this, and we say this all the time, which is make sure whatever coach you have, it doesn't matter if it's a health coach, a financial coach, a business coach, make sure that coach, relationship coach, make sure that coach has a coach. If a coach is not coachable, then they probably don't have the tools for you because we get stuck. I can't look at my own stuff. I go to someone else. I actually have 5 coaches and they all have different functions for me. They don't all do the same thing. They cover different things. So I'll have a technical coach, and that's the person I go to when I have some techie stuff to do. I have a business coach who looks at my stuff and tells me to do it again. I have a marketing coach, even though I have 35 plus years in marketing, I still need somebody else to look at my stuff because it makes perfect sense in my brain. but I need somebody else to look at it. I know invariably I ask you, and this is something that it's an expression that Jack Canfield used. He's the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul and the Success Principles. He's also one of my coaches and my mentor and a very dear friend. And he says, become an ask hole, an ASK hole. Ask people to look at your stuff. Ask people to read your stuff. Ask people to help you. People want to help you. People want to help other people. It makes them feel good. So give them the opportunity to do that. Think about how good you feel when you help somebody else.
Oh, it's exhilarating. It really is. That's why I enjoy coaching.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to be able to help somebody because like you want to save them all the trouble. You want to give them the easier way to do certain things because you've had the experience. I always say I've made way more mistakes than you. Take advantage of it. Don't make the same.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Nobody laughs at me better. Well, maybe you, but nobody laughs at me more than I laugh at myself because I'm like, oh my gosh, I just did a Lorianne, but it's valuable because those experiences, and that's why we always say coaches serve their former selves because we've been there. We've done that.
Right.
We have the t-shirts, have the experience of, oh my gosh. And if we can avoid, and I know we spend a lot of time talking about it, if we can avoid that hurdle, that jumping for someone else, let's just do it. That's why we share. That's why we have these tools and set up these strategies so that you don't have to do what we did. I reinvented the wheel. I was in hamster wheels for a while. Oh my gosh, I was an expert at that. And procrastination, just thinking I'm getting something done, doing the paper shuffle. I'm an expert at it.
But you said two important things that I want to make sure we recrystallize, which is the fact that when you've got all these ideas, you're trying to do all these things. Number one is, do I have the bandwidth? And number two, is it the right time? You actually might have the capacity to do it, but is it the right time for you, for your business? And that's where I think having someone like you, a coach that can ask you those questions, that can help you say, okay, I hear what you're saying, but let's look at it and let's analyze it for a second and see where it fits.
Yeah. And a lot of people fall into the, oh my God, he's doing it syndrome. Do you know that syndrome?
No.
Oh, you ask a friend and you're telling them, listen, this is my challenge. And they're like, oh, well, I do this and I do that and I do this. And suddenly you're like, all right, I got to do that. But you got to think about it. It may or may not apply to your industry. It may or may not apply to your business. It may not be the best first step. So yeah, make sure that you have somebody that you can bounce it off of and say, I was talking to this person. This is where the serial coaching comes in. I have a client who's a serial course taker. And I finally went, stop. You're taking 2 different courses by 2 different health coaches, and they have different contrary coaching styles. Nothing wrong with that. And it's good to get that exposure. But how do you know if you're really absorbing anything, and how do you apply it? How do you know if it's working? Because this one is saying something opposite to this one, and now you've just confused yourself. And a confused brain does nothing.
Well, it forces you to just stop.
Yeah.
Right. So there's forward progress, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we do is we identify who you are, where you are, and where you want to be, and by doing that, it helps us set things up in the right order so that you could accomplish something and take action. The number one thing for success, number one principle for success is taking action. You have to take action. With no action, you could insert the law of attraction and say, I want to make $1 million. Great, law of attraction, right? Setting that momentum in place. And then you sit there and you take no action. P.S. Not going to work. Not going to work. It's like going to a financial advisor and, not putting any money in. You're not going to grow your money if you don't move it over. So, right.
That's true. And I have a question for you. So at the end of every day, do you have some advice for people? Because you look back at your day and sometimes you have a really tough day.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And I really tried today to be very organized, Lorianne. And, I did what we said and I worked through everything and I had my list and I picked the thing, but I still had I had a hard day. I mean, how do you help me get through that a little bit? What's the workout?
The first question I would ask is, well, define a hard day, because what is it that you actually got accomplished? I use the rule of 5, and the rule of 5 is, again, putting 5 tasks on a piece of paper. It could be I have a fancy schmancy little sticky note, a Post-it note that says rule of 5 on it, and 5 lines. And I really literally the day before, I'll fill that in of what I need to get done before 12 o'clock the next day. And that's a non-negotiable. Those things have to be done. Why? Why is it? That cord has to be taken care of. That book has to be returned to the library. This Excel spreadsheet has to be done. And I have to make 2 phone calls, right? Those things have to be done. Why do I do that? Why is it a non-negotiable?
Well, it assures that the things that you really had to get done, and they get done in a prioritized way first thing.
Yeah, yeah. And you feel accomplished. So at the end of the day, you're not frustrated. But more importantly, when you have those days, and we all have them, where it's like, I am intent on getting those 5 things done before noon. I wrote everything down. I had all the things set up. And then so-and-so calls me up and it explodes. Everything explodes and my whole day explodes. That's okay. Be kind to yourself. Start again tomorrow. Move your list to the next day.
I just got everybody a free pearl, and I want to point this out. You said a brilliant thing, and I'm going to reiterate it, is the night before you did some planning. That's the first thing that struck me. You make it it's a 5 bullet point list, and I got to get 5 things done before noon, no negotiating. This is what I have to do. So I know not only what's important, what I need to get accomplished, and by when. Sounds like the goals that you usually preach.
There you go. What by when?
Right. But I'm also prepared first thing in the morning. I'm not starting my day going, wow, what am I going to do today?
How many of us have done that? Yeah. So yeah, no, exactly. And again, when you do those 5 items, they don't have to be big items. Don't take big projects, because that will set you up for failure to get it done by noon, right? They are small enough to do before noon, but big enough to make a difference in attaining your goal, in reaching your goal, right? So you just have to kind of keep that little nugget in there. So just taking care of those things, dropping the lunch to school, check, done. That counts. It counts. And again, give yourself a permission slip. And if you don't want to give yourself a permission slip, I'll write it for you. Just drop me an email. I'll write your permission slip to allow you to have that day. We have those days where everything goes in a different direction. I usually say, okay, what am I supposed to learn here is the first question I ask. And the second is, okay, apparently I'm supposed to do this today. And I just go with it, because there's a reason why we're being pushed in that direction. And those are the days, and I know you've had these, and I'd love an example from you. Those are the days that you meet that person that you're like, oh my God, I'm so happy that I ended up having to do blah because I met so-and-so. And that's such a great opportunity. You've had those days?
I have had those days, and you fully did not intend on just taking the steps that you did. Yeah, and it's, you get a call and someone that says, I really need to speak with you. And so you end up, you're like, okay. And it throws your whole day off. You just realize your day is going to be, and that's okay, because like you said, along the way, something tends to happen. And then you have this kind of serendipitous opportunity that just reveals itself because you were there. And if you hadn't done what you did, you would have missed that. And that's so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I really encourage everybody to grab this 3 steps to clean up your messes and incompletes. It's absolutely free. It allows you to really start the process of getting honed in and start getting tasks completed, because that's what we do. We want to get those tasks completed.
So how is it that folks can get hold of that? Because it sounds like a great start, and I think it helps them get a real firm understanding of really the value of a good coach. How do they get that from you? What's the best way to acquire?
So a couple of different ways. They could go to ldcstrategies.com. They can go to @LDC Strategies on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Lorianne DiUlio Casdia. I don't recommend that, because by the time you figure out to spell your name, you'll be frustrated, and it'll be 2:00 in the afternoon, because I have a lot of names. But and the other way is drop us an email here at healthylifestyle@gmail.com. I'll make sure that you get a copy of that right away. And again, if you have any questions about going through the process, you can just drop an email to us. We love to have, and I have other people who help us support you, so that you have accountability and you start the process. And I'm telling you, as soon as you start that process, it's going to be really a happy addiction, because you're going to see you're starting to get your tasks completed.
And I know that you're not a coffee person that much like me, but you were so excited. You spoke so quickly and you gave about 3 different ways to get this. So I need you to say it one more time, but I need you to pick one and just say it a little slower so everybody can get that. How can
you don't want it New York fast?
No, it was wonderful to me. I heard it. It was perfect. But I'd like people to get this. So say it one more time. What's the best way to reach out to you and to get a copy of this?
Just so I also know that you're listening to the show, email us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. That's healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. Better?
Much better. Thanks.
I can't help it. I talk fast. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I like it as a listener, but I was just thinking about somebody trying to write healthylifestyleswithla@gmail.com. Okay, very good. Now let's move on.
Lifestyle, really. Lifestyle, no S.
No S. Healthy lifestyle.
Yes, with LA. Yep. And thank you for that. Yeah. And the great thing about this PDF too, you're going to learn how to clear up irritations and tolerations, things that you tolerate. So you take that out of your life. You're going to clean up your messes and incompletes because you're going to start with that process. You're going to learn how to do to-dos and finish buys. So you have what by when, the finish buys. I want to do this by this date. And you'll get to your goals quicker by following that process. And my favorite part about that too, is when you're going through the process, be gentle with yourself. Sometimes we miss our buy dates. It's okay, as long as you're focused on it. Otherwise, if you don't put a date on it, you will never do it. Guaranteed. Right. Guaranteed.
So I have one last question that I want to ask you real quick. The what by when, I had heard once that if you try something 3 times and you haven't done it, that it's probably something you're not going to do. Move it to that other part of the list. What are your thoughts about something like that?
Yeah, I totally agree. If you could just keep jumping over it, it's not meant to do right now. Put it on your delay or your dump it list. It doesn't mean that it's it might have been a good idea at the time, or you might have heard it someplace and you was kind of grappling with it, or talk to someone like myself or Vince, yourself, about, get a coach, talk to a coach and see why this is happening. There's usually a block that makes you do things like that. Because if it was important enough at the time that you wrote it down, now my first question is I'm wondering why it's not resonating with you. So generally that tells me that either you have a block or 2, you're procrastinating and you don't know where to start. And that's okay. We've all been there. Don't know where to start. It's breaking it down into the smaller steps. We don't build a house all at the same time. And we certainly don't start with the second floor. We have to make sure we start with the foundation. And we also have to make sure we have all of our supplies. So we do step by step by step by step to get us from where you are to where you want to be. I talk about that as we work in that gap from where you are to where you want to be. We're right in there. And we're setting up procedures and strategies so that you can get where you want.
It's the exact reason that you need a coach. At a certain point, you really just, you need someone to walk you through and help ask those tough questions and kind of make you stay on it until you really make a decision that's valuable and that's going to make a difference. So you'll act on it.
Yeah. What's your recap on this?
So I have a few things. I guess the first is we talked a little bit about what you call the symptoms, right, of what I should be looking for. So if I'm someone sitting out there, am I experiencing any of the symptoms that I ask myself, hey, you know what, I really do think that I need to have somebody help me out. I want to break this block that I'm in, break this cycle, and a coach can help you do that. I think the second part is sitting down and having the discipline and having the template to say, this is how I can approach it. This is how I'm going to break it down. I love that you said we have a strategy, but then we're going to break down. So you can take all these things and put them in one place. And that was really, really helpful. And then I think the last thing is just knowing that having a coach gives you that ability to, when you get stuck on something, you're skipping something like we were just saying, they can help you go back and look at it. Because I think that's the thing. This is probably pretty dynamic, right? This isn't just a one-time, you need people to kind of keep going back and reviewing this, correct?
Yeah, without a doubt. And what you do is, as you're taking things off your list, you can always be adding things on your list, but it gives you a guideline of what you need to do. So you always have focus. And that's one of the things, is a symptom, is the lack of focus, that procrastination, that can't get it done. Great ideas, great vision. And it's very doable. Great ideas, like we're working on one thing, and I was rabid with this. I would be working on one thing and I'm like, oh, I could do this. And then this is new and it's shiny. And so I start working on this, but I didn't complete that. So
Right.
With a coach, you have somebody who sits there and goes, this is great, not ready yet. Let's come over here and then we'll get to that. It's almost like a reward system. If I complete this, then I get that. It's like finishing the laundry. Although the only problem with the laundry is it never stops. And I swear my kids bring stuff in from other places. I don't know. So
Not even their clothes.
I know. I don't know. I was like, I've never seen this before. Anyway, different conversation, different day. But yeah, it's just staying focused. And this particular document and this exercise really helps you start the process of staying focused and taking those steps so that you can be successful, because you are a visionary, because you are smart at what you're doing.
And you mentioned about capturing those other ideas, putting them to the side and evaluating. I love that you said, do I have the bandwidth, and is this the right time? That's a really great takeaway. Do I have the bandwidth, and is this the right time? Because that's important. Now, for somebody that's thinking about this, Lorianne, we had a lot of great information, but to actually put it into practice, probably really tough on your own. You have a masterclass coming up that's midterm.
I do. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, it's a masterclass. It's called Take Action Masterclass, Soar to Success, Take Action Masterclass. You once again, email me at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. I slowed it down. And I'll also drop it with this radio show and the podcast when it gets podcasted, so that you can go and jump on that. But it sets your foundation. This gives you all the things that you really need to be successful. And it's a masterclass that I really encourage you to do. I would start with the PDF and then go to the masterclass. And then from there, we can look at working one-on-one with myself or other people. But with the PDF, it really starts you in the mindset where you're starting to take more accountability and you're starting to set up really good habits.
I think folks that take advantage of that start with the PDF, walk through the exercise, start to apply it, then go to the class so you can actually hear and understand the application in a more critical way, so to speak. I think that will arm them with the tools to be able to determine if they have those symptoms. Because I think the biggest thing is, once you learn, you're going to go, wow, I do have all those things. And I need somebody to kind of come in and get me on the right path. And be a great start. I'm
kind of like the bumpers in a bowling alley. I keep the ball going straight, right? So, but thanks, Vince. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys all for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I hope we've earned the privilege of your time. Any last thoughts, Vince?
No, I would take advantage and get that PDF, folks. I made her say it nice and slow. Healthy Lifestyle with
LA@gmail.com. There you go.
Lifestyle with LA@gmail.com. Don't miss that.
There you go. And if you're looking for a business coach, accountability, strategy, direction, a sounding board, someone to help you streamline, just help you take action, feel free to reach out to us at 516-983-3591, and let's see if you're a good fit. Thank you all again for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. Look for our show next week. Until next time, I'm Lorianne Casdia.
I'm Vince Perrotta.
Play a higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up what, Vince?
Show up big.
Yes, awesome. Show up big. Have a good day, everybody.